So, hi Chevi, thank you for joining us on Steering Marinas. And the reason I called you on this podcast or this video cast is I want to talk to mariners who are out there in the world, and I want you guys to share your knowledge with the fellow mariners. And if they can learn something from you, that will be great. So, in that spirit, today I want to welcome you firstly to Steering Mariners, and I want to I want you to tell us about your professional experience, the kind of ships that you have been sailing on, and what kind of work or operations those ships were involved in. Over to you, Chevi.
Okay, Sam. So starting off, starting in the industry, we started on a fishing vessel and went from that to a small tug working in the construction, the mining and construction industry. I've worked on anchor handling tugs, seismic support, lines, vessels, pilot boats, crew transfer. So yeah, a number of different vessels.
All right, Chevi, did you have to obtain different kinds of certification for these type of boats, or did you obtain one certification and that allowed you to work on each of these boats?
Different certifications, Sam. So we started off in the domestic vessel certification. So going from a Master 5, it used to be called Master under 24 metres now,
yes,
through your Master 4. And then I went from my Master 4 from acquiring time as a second mate on an anchor handling tug within the Australian waters, but it was on a vessel that had the required tonnage. And then that gave me my required sea time to be able to do my Master under 500 tonne, which is currently where I'm at now. And then further undertaking my degree in applied science in Nautical at UTAS.
all right. Thanks, Chevi, for that. And of course, for those of you who are watching us and have not figured it out, Chevi is of course Australian, and we are talking about the Australian certification system. But we'll be talking more about the kind of ships or boats rather she has been sailing on, and what those operations involved. So, what kind of operations was involved in seismic vessels or tugs or anchor handlings and fishing vessel? You can talk a little bit about it. Just assume that our audience may not be aware of, or they may have their own understanding there.
My first command was on a fishing vessel, a perseining vessel in the Southern Ocean. Then I went from there doing a little single screw tug up at Cape Lambert, and we were doing the stores and supplies to the vessels alongside the big Cape-size carriers to replenish, restock. And then from there, I went on to, I think, anchor handling tug. And we did a number of, using that vessel, we did seismic support and supply. So we would resupply a vessel called the WG's Vespucci that was doing the Fortuna 4D in the offshore oil and gas in WA. So taking bunkers, so we'd be doing bunkers underway, handing over stores underway. And then from there, I was on a sort of it's called a PSV, which was mainly probably a crewing vessel, a support vessel as such on the Don Gas pipeline. But it held 100 passengers, so a passenger vessel and all sorts of crew transfer vessels in the mining industry. And currently, I'm only on a small little vessel doing lines launch, which is helps the ships doing the berthing alongside the wharves.
All right, fantastic. So tell me, Chevi, for an example, when you decided to shift to like a line handling vessel, say tomorrow somebody wants to work on a line handling vessel, what kind of advice would you give them? Like, where can they go and get their certification from, or what kind of courses, or where do they go and do these courses in Australia? At least, where do they do that, and what kind of courses or studies do they have to do if they want to find a job there?
That will be through the TAFEs. So yeah, the colleges have been really fantastic there. So I know that Fremantle, Challenger, TAFE, the AMC do courses as such for people to be able to sort of step up from either a coxswain's going through their Master 5, Master 4, etc., etc. And now they use a book called a tags book or a ropes book.
Yes.
I can't
Yes.
remember what they're called now. Things change.
Yes.
So that went from a large amount of sea time, like needing 3 years worth of sea time to get a Master 5, has reduced that down to about 120 days. But utilising that ropes book is onboard training, and it's proof and it's been signed off. So yeah, obviously, it's a good way to get in.
All right. And Chevi, has it been easy for you to shift from all one vessel to the other type of vessel? You've sailed on a few different types of vessels here: fishing vessel, tug, anchor handling, seismic line handling, pilot vessel. So has it been easy for you to find jobs? Will it be as easy for others to find jobs from one ship to the other, or what advice would you be giving them?
To be honest, Sam, it has been difficult. Like, I suppose I've been in sort of the right place at the right time with a couple of the jobs, due to the fact I might have been in a rural or regional area where there wasn't anyone that had that certification, as with the fishing vessel. And then, but there's been a lot of time probably since the anchor handling vessel or the seismic.
Yes.
There would have been years in between of no work.
Yes.
Australia doesn't have any big shipping, which is quite unfortunate. I think it might hopefully it gets better one day, but we don't have very many big ships, so that does make it very difficult. So I suppose most of the qualifications that are in the domestic commercial vessel area would be your Master 5s and your Master 4s, and that's for the small little vessels, in which you've got sort of like in the Sydney Harbour or touring vessels and things like that. There's probably a little bit of work with that. Even I know it sounds silly, but water taxis and things. We go from big boats back down to the little ones.
Right.
But that also gives you the opportunity to be back with your family and to be sort of get back. So it's not all bad. I actually don't mind being on a small vessel. So
yeah, absolutely. I think that's very good advice for somebody who wants to start off. They can always start off with some smaller boats like water taxis. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but they can get some experience. They get an idea of the profession as well. Chevi, one thing that I want to ask you is maybe it's a bit controversial. I don't know, but when we were in commercial shipping, it used to be known as the male-dominated profession, and although it's changing now, a lot of women are coming to the workforce. I don't think it's a male-dominated profession, although I think an increasing percentage is, of course, still men. Has it been your experience as well? And what has your experience been? What advice would you like to give to like young female students who want to probably join sea, or mariners who are already there? What has your experience been like, and what is your advice regarding that?
I suppose it has been a little bit difficult, but at the same time, I've been very blessed in the jobs that I've worked. The lads have been really fantastic to work with, and very accepting of girls on board now. You probably still find some people are a little bit dubious because I think it's quite a physical job. It can be quite a physical job, and if you've got gentlemen on board, they don't want you to hurt yourself. So that's why they probably it's not. I won't say it's a sexist thing. I think it's just being gentlemen. They don't like to see ladies lifting heavy things.
Right.
And but I think once they can see that you're quite robust or have the strength to do that job, but I would sort of say to any young lady that just because, like, probably in the mining industry, or the big ships or the tugs, there's nothing stopping them within the white boat industry, the tourist industry, fishing charters. Like, there's so many different aspects. So I would say that, you know, anyone go for it. It's the best work environment. Like, I love working on the ocean, and I really wouldn't want to work anywhere else.
Very good.
So
So
yes,
that's a good message for everybody who has a passion to sail on ships or boats. Don't let anything stop you. You should just go out there, and like Chevi said, you will definitely enjoy it if you have a passion for this profession. Chevi, of course, I also understand that you are now enhancing your certification and your qualification. You're doing a Bachelors of Nautical Science, which in many countries is also known as your chief mates and masters. And this is a big step. And of course, apart from the studies, because of COVID, it has not been easy. So firstly, I want to ask you, why did you decide to go for this certification? Was it a requirement, or you just want to enhance your certification for future?
it wasn't a requirement, Sam, and I actually do not have the sea time to be able to undertake my orals for mates and masters.
Right.
But what it has given me is more knowledge, you know, more knowledge on the commercial sides of things, like the law and charter parties, and undertaking draft surveys
Yes,
and things
absolutely.
like that.
Yeah.
So also with the industry that I work in, I'm on the work with the mining sector, where, you know, there's ship loading and all sorts of things. So I suppose even if I wasn't on a ship, as long as I'm next to them,
Yeah.
and as long as I'm in the industry and I'm next to the water, and
Yes.
that is my passion. So it does open up a lot more doors,
Yes. Right.
this course, than just being able to sail as a captain, which is something that I don't actually particularly want
Yeah.
to do,
Yes.
nor have that responsibility.
Yes.
So the chief mate job would be fantastic, because I really enjoy the cargo aspects of the shipping. But yeah, it opens up a lot more doors, especially if you do want to step from being on a ship into more of a land-based job, because you want to be back with your family, but still in that industry. So
Right,
yeah.
right. I think this is a very important message that students there should listen to, that you should keep on upskilling yourself. Don't worry about getting the promotions or getting the right jobs. If you keep upskilling yourself, and this is what Chevi is trying to say, that it will open up a lot of doors. When the right opportunity will come, you guys will have an edge over the other candidates, especially if you've got the certification with you. Chevi, with COVID, and your studies, a small comment on how you have managed, because it's not easy to be working and studying, and you are one of those who are setting a very good example out there, because most of the students, when they come to study, they are studying, but you were studying and working, and you were managing both, and then COVID happened. So a little bit a tip for people out there who are planning to study or going for higher certification, but they are not sure whether they should go for it or not. What would your tip or advice would be to them?
Sam, it's for such a short moment of your life to be able to put your head down and really work hard at what you love and what you want. Yes, it's been difficult because I'm not on a set shift, like a 12-hour shift. I'm on 24-hour call, which means I could be working at 10 o'clock in the morning, then go back at 2 in the afternoon, and then maybe back on at 10 o'clock at night.
Hmm.
So I've been pretty blessed. I know COVID's a really bad thing, but in some respects, the education platform has been fantastic that UTAS has put on for us, in as much as I could take my computer or take my iPad and have my earphones and be listening to my lectures while I'm on the vessel. And then to be able to, because the lectures have been recorded, I could go back and access that when I had time. Even if it, you know, like, and the lectures have all been really good with the understanding of knowing that you're at work and not have to run off and go and tie a ship up or whatever. So it's difficult, but if you really want it, you'll put in the effort, and obviously reap the rewards. And knowledge is the worthy is the worthy path anyway.
Well, that's the message. So if you can put your mind to it, what Chevi says, you can study even with a job and with COVID happening there. And of course, for those of you who don't know what UTAS is, Chevi keeps mentioning UTAS. UTAS stands for University of Tasmania, and we at the Australian Maritime College, we are part of the University of Tasmania. So that's what she's been talking about. Chevi, before you started your studies, and this is like the highest level of studies you can go up to in nautical department, did you do some kind of preparation before you started officially with the college, or was it easy for you to just get back into the studies and start?
Look, I do understand. I am actually quite dedicated with study when it comes to being able to study in by myself, a correspondence, I suppose. And I know a lot of people do struggle with that. So I found it not too difficult.
Right.
But I do understand a lot of people prefer to actually go into the classroom and engage with their classmates because it helps them study, or you know, being able to go to sit in the library and all that kind of thing. But we have just as much availability with the Zoom rooms.
Yes.
And and collaborate, being able to talk to your classmates and see them, and you know, interact with your lecturer. So it's been really good, and I would still recommend, if anyone wanted to study, then definitely don't let not being able to attend a classroom hold you back either. You know, technology that's moving this day forward, it's been really good, and especially with being able to attend a university course while you're working, if you couldn't do it any other time, so or afford to do it. So this has been great.
That's another great message. That's fantastic. Chevi, we often meet students who are who they begin their studies after, say, a gap or so, and sometimes they are struggling with some basic math or something like that. What advice would you give those students who are probably coming back to studies, say, after a gap, or they fear that maybe they may not be able to cope with the math, or what advice would you give those people especially?
Well, Sam, I must say, your steering mariners, I'm going to say it because I actually religiously use your class. I'm not trying to sell it, but
thank you.
When, you know, sort of having my cup of coffee in the morning and being able to go back through lessons and being so short and sweet that they are, it's a memory jogger. And you're like, that's right, I remember that now. So it's been fantastic. And the fact that you actually go through numerical questions and it is just to refresh your memory, but it does really, really work. And most certainly for my exams, and I know that I'm not the only one of your students. We've all accessed your channel because it's just been so fantastic to be able to sit there before exams and just go. It might be, for example, the IMDG code, and everything's in a list, and it's like, right, I'm going to go from here to here to here to here. But yep, that's embedded. And yeah, look, Sam, it's been fantastic.
Oh,
we really appreciate your actual effort, because it would take time to put in what you do.
Thank you, Chevi. Really appreciate it. I'll come back to, I'll take a little bit more of your time because I want to know more about boats that you are sailing on. And I also want to pass on this information to people who are not familiar with these type of boats. Now, Chevi, the kind of boats you're sailing on, say, for example, you said you are currently sailing on line handlers. Those are, of course, not international going vessels. You go out there, you bring the boat in, you help with the berthing. So does that mean you come back home every night? Or do you have you come back home every night? So it's like 9 to 5 job, or how does, so the hours, no, it's not a 9 to 5, of course, but can you explain a little bit about the hours of work with this line handler?
So for myself, we're tidal dependent. So you might have a Capesize carrier that it comes in and that's fine. It's got a berthing pocket, but his sailing time. So if it's at 1 o'clock in the morning because you've got the full moons and the spring tides, you know, the shipping is dependent on your depth of water that you can either bring the ships in or out. The Panamaxes are not so bad, but yeah, so we're pretty much a 24/7 ops.
Oh,
Not for us in particular anyway.
right.
The tugs might be on 2 12-hour shifts because there's like more towage or more groups to be able to attend to that. So but the lines launch 24/7.
So, Chevi, what are your shifts like? Is it a 12-hour shift in one go, or how does it work? A little bit about your shift and your work hours. Can you talk a little bit about?
Okay, for sort of like the hours of rest,
Yes.
we have to manage our fatigue. It's not sort of like under the STCW hours of rest.
Right.
Watch keeping, because watch keeping is you've got your 4-hour watch, and then you might go and do some work on deck, and then you might go and have a sleep, and then you've got to get up at, if you're doing the 12 till 4, then you go and have dinner, and then you've got to get up at midnight and do your 4 o'clock until 4 in the morning.
Right.
So we might have 3 jobs throughout the day, and we do have to monitor and manage our fatigue to the best to how we can. So
right. So once you get home, you come back home. How many hours do you get? You get a defined period of rest at home, or you are on call, or how does that work?
We're on call, but once you sort of go past a certain amount of hours, you still must have that minimum of 4-hour rest.
Right.
So if shipping sort of looked like it was going a little bit, so we've got a shipping schedule, so we can monitor that with what's going on in the next sort of 24 hours or 48 hours. So if we thought that there was going to be a problem with the time factor, then we call our DPA and address that with him. So we're not going over hours.
Right. And do you see yourself to be a long term in this kind of boats, or do you see yourself making a shift to like the commercial vessels, or like what advice would you give to people who are trying to shift from, let's say, these smaller boats to the bigger ships, or vice versa? What advice would you like to give them?
I suppose I can't give much advice on the bigger ships because Australia doesn't have that many big ships to be able to move up onto those would be difficult.
Right.
But my advice is if you love the ocean, it doesn't matter what size boat you're on or what job you're doing. So like I said, even if it was driving a water taxi, and believe it or not, small vessel handling, you learn a lot, and especially in areas of strong tides and strong currents, like being in a little vessel can really improve your vessel handling skills, where you have you understand the forces that are acting on you a lot better than being on. I'm not saying it because I actually haven't sailed on a big ship, but I suppose you're not feeling those dynamic forces as much as you would in a little vessel. So I do believe being on a little vessel and moving up it's a great thing to do, and it builds your confidence as well.
Yeah, that's actually fantastic message that you are giving every time, Chevi, that I think for any profession and out there mariners as well, you must have a passion for the job that you are doing. Otherwise, you are not going to enjoy no matter what ship. The salary will never be enough. The money, the food and all that will never be luxurious enough unless you have a passion for that profession. And that is what Chevi is saying. Chevi, before I finish today's video, I've taken up a lot of your time. So thank you for that. I just want to ask you one last thing. A lot of the people from commercial ships, when they have sailed on those big ships for a number of years, they start asking or they are looking for some opportunities ashore. And you have been involved with the shore side of stuff as well, of course. Can you suggest a few possibilities or a few opportunities that the mariners can look out for, the kind of jobs you think people who have been working on ships will enjoy on the shore side of things?
Well, I suppose there's all sorts of jobs like operation managers, designated persons ashore. There's just so many, and it sort of depends on whereabouts you're working. Even vessel management, QHSE, because we've been involved with all those aspects of it on the vessel. So I just look at our vessels being like a floating office.
Right.
So really, whatever you're doing there, you can still do in a land-based job. But yeah, there is so much, and I know we sort of tend to think, oh, we've been doing this. What else do we know? We don't really know anything else, but we do. We know a lot of
Yes.
different things. So
And then you have tugboats, you have the other roles in the port as well, some other roles that are involved in the port. So you are, of course, involved with line handling boats. What are some of the other, like these kind of roles which are there for mariners to
well, there's the pilot vessels,
pilot vessels? Yeah.
tugboats. There's tug and barge work. There's
Mm.
anchor handlers. If there's sort of constructions going on and jetty constructions where you do have the big barges and the
Yes.
crane operations, because we have still all done that on board, operated the cranes and winches and all of that kind of stuff, which I know that the big ship guys would be doing. So yeah, I suppose it's but then I still do go back to the fact of basic little vessels in I want to say the hospitality industry, but for example, the Sydney Harbour around New Year, even that, you're still on a vessel, and it's word of mouth as well. Like if you've been on something, and then you can progress to something else because you get to meet people. And the maritime industry is actually quite small.
That's right. That's right.
It really is. And I've been a number of jobs where I've worked with someone over in Western Australia, or you come back over here, and then you're working with them on another job, and then all of a sudden you go to uni, and then there's about 5 of you that you know from all over the place, and we're all doing the same thing. So upskilling, yeah.
Yes, this is very important stuff that Chevi, you have mentioned. I think as a young mariner, I was not very aware of it, but I think the message you're sending is networking is becoming very important these days. The more you network, the more people you know. And like Chevi said, it's a small profession. I think world over, maritime community itself is very small. People get to know one another very quickly. So I think the message here is that you must try to get to know as many people as you can, especially use the opportunity when you are studying in a college, use the opportunity to get to know other people as well, and use those contacts and get to know one another, not only for finding jobs, but also to learn from one another. Thank you so much, Chevi, for your time and for
Thanks, Sam. Thank you
valuable,
for your time.
for your valuable
Bye.
input. I think we have learned a lot. Thank you so much for joining us, and good luck with the rest of your studies. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Thank you very much, Sam. Bye.